Welcome to Stories of Hope. This is a podcast by the Dream Center.
Where you will hear from people who have stories that once seemed hopeless.
People whose stories of redemption and life transformation are so powerful, they can only be possible by the power of Jesus. Hey everybody, welcome back to Stories of Hope. My name is Brady and I'm one of the hosts from the last season of Stories of Hope. We're super excited to be launching season 5 today, and obviously for those of you that are tuning in on YouTube, this is a new thing for us. For those of you that are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or any of the other sites, we're now live on YouTube. So this podcast is no longer just audio. We also have a video aspect to it. And we're really excited about what the potential of this could bring to Stories of Hope and to the Dream Center, and kind of just giving some faces to the names of the people who are joining us on this. And so we're super pumped about today. For those of you that were here last season, this is Shayne Nichols. He was one of our guests. We had some cool conversations in the last season just about his story, and at one point towards the end, he made a little joke about getting the cameras out and telling some more of his story in depth, and so we figured what a better person to start the season with than Shayne. And also, for those of you that are tuning back in, this is Sarah Beach. She is our co-host, and I'm going to pass off to her to kind of get this thing rolling.
All right. Shayne, I'm so glad that you came back and decided to go a little bit more in depth with your story. So a lot's changed since you have been on the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
You have a new job transition, new fun things. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, since the last time I've been on, I'm now the store manager of the Greenville store. Total God move, you know. Obviously, when I came into the Dream Center, I started out as assistant manager. Just kind of worked my way up, just stayed faithful, and you know, just coming into work every day with a good attitude, and you know, just loving other people like Jesus Christ would love them, and it's paid off just staying faithful.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'd love to kind of start a little bit with, over this last summer, we've had a ton of groups come into the stores as a whole in the upstate, but we had a certain group called Fuge that's from a ministry in the upstate, and they've had a couple larger groups come through Greenville pretty much all summer, and there were some really cool things that got to happen. I'd kind of love to start there and just kind of give right off the bat a huge testimony to what God did through the ministry this summer. Yeah,
again, total God thing. Yeah. It's incredible. You know, we had a large volunteer group, all pretty much high schoolers and middle schoolers come in, and you know, they're supposed to come in and help us for 3 hours just to you know, get whatever just done around the store. And through Melissa Vess and a couple other people who pushed me to just share a little bit about my testimony, I finally began to open up to them. And it's funny because it started out with me sharing my testimony to just a group of maybe 4 of the kids. And this is before we started working. And all of a sudden, next thing you know, we got the whole group of about 20 kids sitting in a circle just listening to kind of what I was saying. And we had one kid, they actually asked if they could you know, share their testimony. And this kid couldn't have been older than 14. And so they started sharing, and they were touching on things that you just never would have thought that, you know, they would have been going through. And it just started a chain reaction of other kids starting to open up, sharing their testimonies. And so yeah, just one kid after the other started sharing and opening up. And, you know, I just was totally out of the picture by this point. I'm just standing in the background, just listening, and they're pretty much just having a small group amongst themselves and just opening up about their personal lives and just, you know, just kind of what God's been bringing them through. And it was really deep stuff. And, you know, at the end, and this was over the course of about 2 hours. And so 2 out of the 3 hours they were supposed to be working, we're just in there sharing our testimonies. And so, you know, just God was totally at work with that. And at the end, the group leader, she came up to me and she was crying, and she's like, "Sorry if you saw me crying like a baby, but I had one of our members, one of our campers, she came up to me, and she said she wanted to recommit her life to Christ." And you know, which, you know, that obviously that put a tear in my eye, just like, wow, this is so much bigger than, I could have ever imagined. And it kind of put into perspective why we do what we do. And just, throughout that next hour, I had another camper come up to me, and she asked me like how she can rededicate her life. And I was just like, this is crazy. Like, I never would have thought that. And it just really made me think, though, because these kids are only there Monday through Friday at that camp. And this was a Friday that they came in to volunteer. And so they go through this whole camp doing Bible studies and learning about the Word. And it's like the last day it took sharing testimonies, like they were very close to going home, and there's no telling, if they would have went home saved or not. So it makes me think about that, and just how incredible, how God works. And you can never, it's very mysterious, but he knows exactly what he's doing.
It's also cool, and like goes to show too that kids, especially as they're growing up, learning about the Lord, trying to build these experiences in ministry, so often, and I was a part of as a kid, going into mission trips where you're just doing tasks and not getting a ton of time with people that are involved in the ministry day in and day out. And so obviously, like, it goes to show the change of heart, goes to show the change in the power of testimony and just what it got to spark. So that's just really cool.
Oh yeah.
I think it shows a lot to what we're doing here, like how powerful a testimony is. And so we're able to, like, week in, week out, give the people an opportunity to share that. So I'm really excited to get a little bit more in depth with your story.
Oh yeah.
So talk a little bit more through about your childhood, kind of like where did baby Shayne kind of come from? Because last time we talked a lot about like your addiction and your recovery through that, what community now looks like. So like I would love to hear more about your story, kind of like what got you to this point, like where did little Shayne come from?
Oh man, so little Shayne, he came from Anderson, South Carolina. I lived there up until I was 9 years old. But a lot had happened up until I was 9 years old. Obviously, as a kid, I thought I was born into a normal family, which, some aspects were normal, but there was a lot of aspects that weren't normal. Went to church, but never really knew God. Of course, I was a kid, and just things that happened to me, I thought that every kid went through. I had a father who, he was physically abusive, not just to me and my siblings, but to my mom as well. That's what led up to their divorce. And also there was a family member who mistreated me and my siblings sexually. And I think that's where a lot of my confusion, came from, and a lot of trauma. So like talking about later in my life going through addiction, I think, it was a lot of stuff just as a child that just didn't get, resolved. It's, and a lot of it came from just not forgiving myself. Weirdly enough, some of those things that happened to me, I blame myself, and I'm a little kid, and I had this weight on me where I felt like I was doing something wrong, and there was something wrong with me, or, it changed, it kind of, altered a lot in my mind. As I got older, I started to be able to tell some signs that there's some trauma that is definitely not dealt with, I guess I could say. So just 9 years old, that's when, like I said, my parents divorced. Luckily, my mom, she actually met who my current stepdad is. His name's Rick, and he's I don't want to say he saved my family, but he really did. When my mom met him, we were living in a 2-bedroom house, no locks on the front or back door. And this was between my brother, my sister, and my mom. And she was having to sleep out on the couch, and she was working 2 jobs just to support us. Just doing everything she could. And honestly, watching her work the way she did, I think that's why I have such a passion for what the Dream Center does, because it's, you get to see these other moms who are doing everything in their power to get their kids back. And it goes to show just how much a mother really, loves their kids. And sometimes they're just not dealt the same fair cards in life that other people are. But yeah, so she met Rick. We were living in that house, and me and my brother, we did everything in our power to kick him out of that house. You know, he wasn't the first guy that she brought over, but every other guy before, we'd go out there when, you know, they'd be watching TV in the living room at night. We'd go out there, we'd throw pancake batter at him, you know, screaming and yelling. You know, it's just that, again, it's like certain things that happened as a kid, it kind of transferred in later into life where, you know, we didn't trust men. The last thing we wanted was another man in the house. Right. And, you know, we wanted our mom, we wanted her to be safe and protected. And that's how me and my brother felt like we could do that. Mm-hmm. And so we tried our best to run off Rick, who I call my dad now. We tried our best to run him off, and he always came back. I still remember the first time, I think it was my birthday. It was my birthday or my brother's, but he took us to the mall and bought us some skateboard shoes, and I was like, I think that's when my attitude changed for him big time. Because I love skateboarding, and so I was like, you know what, he's not that bad. And, so at that time, he was, I don't remember exactly what position he was working at, but he wasn't making, you know, crazy amount of money. I think he was making like $10 an hour, but he loved my mom, and he loved us, and it just his actions and the way he, you know, he cared about us, and he took the time to, you know, even though he didn't care about skateboarding, he was invested in us, and this is before they were even, you know, married. And so fast forward a couple years, he got a job offer in being a project manager, and that's what brought us to Georgia. So we finally made our way down to Georgia. I was probably, I think I was 12 years old, and you know, just one thing led to another. You know, it felt like for the first time, like, you know, I have a family. This is what a family feels like, and I guess the next kind of set of traumas when my brother passed away when I was 14 years old. He was 15, and we were just having a boxing match in the basement, and that's something we did all the time. We had a friend over too. His name was Candler, and just having a boxing match. And I hit him one time in the face, and he wanted to take a rest, and he never woke up. The next time I saw him, he was purple. You know, the black lips, purple eyes, and just he was dead before the ambulance even got there. But, you know, again, that's just another thing that it was hard to forgive myself, because I felt like, you know, I had that guilt. I was like, almost like, I felt like I killed my brother for the longest time. And so again, just a lot of undealt traumas that I just tore me up and ate me up inside. And, you know, that soon after that is when I started, you know, trying drugs for the first time. I still remember my sister and my mom, they were prescribed Xanax, and this was before I even knew what a Xanax was, but I knew why they were getting it. I knew it was because depression. And so, I was like, you know what, if this is like helping them, then I'm going to try it. And, you know, like I said, at this time, I didn't even know what getting high was. So I still remember stuffing my wallet full of these pills, and I took them for a long time, and it was just to sleep at that time. I wasn't taking them during the day, but I just wanted to sleep to where I wouldn't have the recurring dream of, you know, I always had this dream where it would be like a normal thing that me and my brother were doing. So like swinging on a swing set, this was one that always came up. But at like one of the first houses we lived in, we had a swing set, and you know, it was like something that really happened. But every time I saw his face, it was his, you know, face from when he passed, just that purple face and the black lips, and for some reason that just always stuck with me, and I could never get it out of my head. And so when I took these pills, it was, you know, it worked. I didn't dream. You know, I got to sleep. And I'm 14, just, you know, looking back on it now, it's like, it really makes me kind of sick, because it's like, man, if only I knew the stuff I knew now. You know, if only I knew that I could run to Christ and give it to him, it's like, it would have been so much easier. But again, it just makes it, puts in that perspective that God, he really puts us through certain things to, you know, to build us into something more than we could ever imagine. And that's just part of my walk that I had to go through. And,
Right.
you know, so with Xanax, I was on those for a couple years. I was smoking weed every day. I still remember when my mom found out I was taking her pills. It was, I guess I fell asleep and all the pills fell out from that little crease in the wallet.
Mm.
And so she was wondering what all those pills were that were on my floor. And so I got busted then. And I think that's when she realized, like, you know, that you might have some like trauma, or there's like something going on with you. And so, you know, my mom cared. She's always been my rock. Like, she's always been by my side. She's my best friend. And I don't think she knew what to do about it. She's never went through addiction either, and this isn't to take anything away from her, but I just don't think she knew really what to do or how to help me. And so, you know, thank God I was able to put down the Xanax for a little while there. I was still smoking weed, going out on weekends, partying, and, you know, I guess you could consider me like I was always in the middle of the crowd. It's funny though, I was in the middle of the crowd, but I was always quiet. And I guess that's because I played pretty much every sport. I was very athletic in high school, but, you know, just, I was going through, I felt so alone, you know, every grade, every year of school, I just felt so alone. Like, I had these, you know, of course I had friends, but I was like, you know, none of them really know what's going on, and they don't really, I felt different. I always felt different. And that was always something really hard to deal with. And, you know, still going throughout high school, I just had never forgiven myself. You know, I never really messed around with, you know, my friends. They were sleeping with girls and everything. I never really got mixed in with that at that age, just because one thing I noticed about myself was just that whenever, you know, I gave myself to someone, like when I invested my, you know, I guess my emotions into someone, whether it's a friend or a girlfriend, it was like I would fall so hard, and it was almost like I finally just got tired of doing that, because a lot of times you get upset, or you get let down. And so I always had a really big heart, but I never really knew where to direct my heart. So it was, you know, for the longest time it was drugs. Later in life it was also women. I you know, just that's where I directed my that's where I directed my focus. That's where I put my heart into, was into women. And obviously that's not something that God
not sustaining,
blesses. So you know, now looking back on it, it's like I can, you know, see where that this big heart that I have is like, it's not something that's it's not a toxic quality of mine. You know, it's something that God gave me. And you know, now it's like I can see it as like my biggest blessing, because I can the Lord can direct it in a place that's actually glorifies Him. And you know, for the longest time I never did that. I was putting it in things that did not glorify Him. It honestly brought Him shame. I was the definition of a lukewarm Christian. Even after I got, you know, sober, I was still trying to navigate, you know, what can I do and what can't I do? It was like, okay, I got rid of drugs, but you know, can I still have sex? Or, you know, just you know, it was almost like trading one addiction for the other. There was a time where even online shopping was like my biggest thing. It was whenever I started feeling sad or down, I was always on my phone just trying to you know, look for something to splurge onto, and it would make me, I guess it gave me that dopamine rush. And
I can relate to that.
So it's but that's something I just recognized through myself, just because you know, of course this is later on in my life, after, you know, getting clean. I was, you know, I'm able to go to Christ now, and I can reflect on some of these things and just you know, ask Him, like, is this like what you want from me? Or
right.
really I should be running to Christ when I get sad, not running to whatever Etsy or whatever site, eBay.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I know I skipped over a whole lot.
No, it's great.
Talking about later in my life, but
no, it's great. It's also cool for me to see too. Like last time we got to talk, you talked about sitting on that bench when you were at the rehab place, talking to your friend, looking over the trees, and just being like, "What is beyond everything that's in front of me?" And that was kind of like your moment that you kind of decided to choose Jesus and to run back to the Father. And so, but to also hear so much of your story to where your heart and like the way that you're like winded together inside very clearly is like a heart for people, which is the heart of the Father. And like, so you can see all these traits of how you're operating now in your gifts that were there before. And like you said, it was just a misuse of the focus.
Yes.
And so now that you're walking with the Lord and operating in his gifts and everything, your heart's like immediate nature is flowing through the right way and going towards the right things, and the focus is the right thing, so therefore everything else is following after. One little thing that I love to talk about too, I think this could be helpful for some people, after your brother passed, what did the relationship with like your mom and your sister kind of look like post that? Was there anything that you guys had to navigate that was obviously so much had happened, but I think that there's maybe a little bit there that we could get into as well.
Oh, that's a good question. Oh, that's a really good question because, after my brother passed, my relationship with my mom, I'll touch on that first, but my relationship with my mom got really kind of suppressed, and really a lot of it had to do with me. And again, this is me blaming myself for something that I didn't have control over, and it took me forever to forgive myself over it. But so when I was 14, my mom's way of grieving and trying to talk to me was by asking me to go shop with her, and she knew as she got me in the car, then I had no choice but to listen to her. And I think that was more so for her, but she also, she wanted to hear what was going on with me. And I look back on that and I feel so I used to kick myself so much because I just stared out the window, zoned out. I didn't want to hear any of it, and I definitely didn't want to talk about it. And, I look back on it now, and I'm just like, oh, man, like, I couldn't even be there for my mom. Just, like, how selfish was I? Like, that was just such a selfish thing. And, that's something that, like I said, I used to kick myself over so much. And it's funny because later in life, within the past couple years with talking to my mom and explaining like how much like regret when I was making those amends with her and telling her about all the regret I felt about not being there for her, she's like really? I didn't even think anything of it. You were just being you. And I was like, really? Because I used to, that I felt like I was getting, it drove me to getting high. Like it made me that upset that I couldn't be there for my mom. And so, soon after my brother died, me and my mom, we just, it was really quiet in the house. We didn't talk like we used to. We weren't as playful as we used to be. She was still my best friend, but I kind of shut down. I definitely, I used to be like the class clown before my brother passed away. Like I was saying, I was kind of like the center of attention. And after my brother passed away, it was just, I really just, I went on mute. So like in middle school, I was on Rule 12 pretty much every year because I was just always getting in trouble for stupid things like being disrespectful or just talking when I wasn't supposed to be talking. And after my brother died, which was freshman year of high school, it was like I never got one write up in high school. So it was like I went mute. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I was still hanging around with people I wasn't supposed to be hanging around, but I wasn't, I didn't care about being, like the popular kid or being the center of attention. Right. And it was almost like part of me like kind of grew up and realized like, well, like life, you never know, like I could die today and I was always kind of scared, I was kind of scared of death. But with my sister too, I'm glad you asked that, because I really, this is a part of my testimony I never really touch on, but so me and my brother, we were always really close. Like, he was always my best friend. When I was bored, I would immediately go to his room, and I usually would pick on him and make fun of him. And that's just how our relationship was. But he was my best friend. That's what we did. And my sister, of course, she was there, but she wasn't there. I wasn't as close to her as I was with my brother. And after he passed away, it was almost like it was just this big hole in our family that it just didn't feel right anymore. And with my sister, again, this is something I kick myself over to this day, because I just shut her out, and for a very long time, we never had a relationship. I didn't take the time to tell her I loved her. I didn't take the time to even want to have a conversation with her. I actually resented her a lot, for things that she couldn't even control. It's just, I can't even explain it. It's just, I guess with my sister, I blamed her almost for, this sounds so bad, but I was almost like, well, why couldn't it have been you instead of him? So, obviously that's just a horrible thing to even say, but that's just how I felt as a kid. And I hated the fact that it had to be my brother. And for a long time, I also resented my sister, because she was one of the few people who was actually trying to, keep me accountable. I used to resent her because she would tell on me, and like Shayne's smoking weed in the basement, or he's doing this and that, and I'm just like, really, like, why are you like that? And like, looking back on it now, I'm grateful she was like that, because she actually cared when I thought she just hated me. And so me and my sister had a really weird relationship growing up, just until I'd say the past 3 years is really the first time we've actually started trying to build a relationship. And there's still, we're still not super buddy, but we also know that if we got in a situation where we didn't know what to do, then we could run to each other. And she knows I'd have her, and she knows I love her, and I know she loves me. But she's got 3 beautiful nieces who, I would do anything in the world to protect them. And I think she knows that too. And I love my sister, and I'm just glad that she's forgiven me for some of the things that I've held against her and have done to her, because it's not fair kind of how I treated her. But my brother passing away definitely left a hole in our family.
Yeah. And grief is one of those things too, where there's so many different stages of how to process, and there's the official steps that you can go through, but also it's just everybody grieves so differently. And thankfully, the Lord has made us to where we're all wired extremely different, so nobody's going to process anything the exact same way. So I think with grief comes so much grace. And I think when there's that, especially family love, there's a sense of there's going to be a time where it all comes back around, because it's just, you can't control how you grieve. You just can't. So, but that's a really cool testament of family for sure.
So at what point did you start that healing process with your mom and your sister? Was there a thing that happened? Was it when you were in rehab? Kind of what did that look like to be able to take those steps to have that better relationship with your family?
Well, I would like to say it happened sooner than later, but it definitely happened later on. My brother he passed away when I was 14, and we really didn't start building a relationship till I was 23, so almost 10 years later. But when I was going through my addiction, so I know I touched on it last podcast about going through cancer and chemo, and that's kind of where I learned that pain pills was what made me feel all these things that I thought I needed to feel. Like it made me feel love and accepted. Like made me warm inside. And, I was like, man, this is like, screw having friends. Like this is what I need. This is what I've been missing out on. It was better than any other drug I tried. And so, it was really easy getting caught on pain pills. And, I was still a teenager at that time. So, that addiction just progressed. And, by the grace of God, I was cured from cancer. Got put in remission. And, so with that comes, no more pain pills from the doctor.
Right.
So, it didn't take long for people to start noticing, like, yeah, he has a problem. I was able to buy him off the street for a little while, but it just got expensive, and that's how people turn to heroin. That's why I turned to heroin and turned to fentanyl. But, for a long time, they did try to help me. They sent me to rehab more times than I can even recall. Right. Countless number of detoxes. And for the longest time, I would even joke about it. I would tell them straight up. It was just like, I don't know why y'all are even wasting the time on me, because this is just a tolerance break, if anything. And, it was horrible. I never saw a way out. I was like, I'm so, it just has a grip on my soul that I didn't even, I never would have imagined myself sitting here for one, but, goodness, my parents were always there, until they couldn't be there. And that was about 21 or 22, when, they just finally realized, like, look, we're going to have to send you out on your own. And, we can't keep you around. They didn't trust me. My sister, she wouldn't let me around her kids, which, I don't blame her. And so, and a part of me almost was like kind of glad, which is the crazy part to even think. Like when this all first happened, I was like, well, good. Like you guys just made me more stressed out anyways. And, so like part of me was happy they were cutting me off, which is horrible to even say, but, they cut me off. I ended up moving down in Greenwood, and it's like my mom will tell you, if you were to ask her like how I got to where I'm at today, it's because they never stopped praying for me. And I believe that's true, because it really didn't take me very long to realize that wasn't the life for me. Living the way I was, which was basically, just almost like couch surfing. And I went in Greenwood, I pretty much went to every halfway house and rehab you can go to until I couldn't go to anymore. And, it was just basically couch surfing and just pretty much just being on the streets. And I was like, this is just not the life for me. I was doing things, that I never would have imagined, just to get by. I didn't know who I was anymore. And, so looking at that now, I'm like, I'm grateful that my parents did that though. Because if I had been on my own like that and kind of saw what I was sowing, then I don't think I would have got clean, I think that's what it took, was them kind of cutting me off and just letting me have it. Just let the world take care of it. And I'm just beyond grateful that I'm even here, because there was a couple times where I don't know how I survived, but I did. And so to answer your question, when I started building my relationship with my mom, it was about a year after living in Greenwood. I actually overdosed, and I overdosed in a Walmart parking lot. And a guy, he actually called the ambulance, and apparently I was there I was obviously out, so I don't know exactly how long it was, but apparently I'd been laying there for about 5 minutes or so, just out. And so he called the ambulance, and if this ambulance wasn't literally at the Spinks gas station just across the street, I have no doubt in my mind I'd be dead, just because you don't you don't really survive, especially a fentanyl overdose. And so, he called the ambulance, and the ambulance happened to be right across the street. And they came over there and they gave me 3 shots of Narcan. Ended up going to, I guess it's Greenwood Memorial Hospital down there. And I remember, so keep in mind, this is still when, I'm still cut off from my family.
Yeah, right.
And so I still remember calling my mom and just like, I'm done with this. Like, can you please just like come get me and just take me to the Carolina Center, which is in Greenville. Like I can't be down here. Like I'm gonna die. And in the back of my mind, I knew if she didn't come get me, the place I was going to, there was no hope for me. And so by the grace of God, she got in her car and she came and picked me up. And you would think that was enough to stop me from getting high, but I still had some drugs left over. Right. And my addict mind told me, well, if I'm going to go to detox and get this over with, I'm going to use all of this that I can, and I'm going to have to use this before I go in there, and I better finish it before I'm done with detox, because I don't want to be dope sick when I get out, because then they're definitely like, just going to kick me as far away as possible. So I hate admitting that, but my mom knew. I remember when she was taking me to Greenville, we stopped at a gas station, and I went in the bathroom and did my thing in there, and I came back and she knew exactly what I was doing. She knew exactly what I did. And, I can still see her face, because it just killed her. Like, are you serious? Like, you just almost died, and this is what you're doing literally the next day. It's like, it's just that it's, it's almost like, what's the word? Insanity. Just doing the same thing over again and expecting a different result.
Right.
And it was always the same thing. That's all I knew how to turn to, and that's what I did. So I ended up going to the Carolina Center, and I detoxed, did my thing there, and by the grace of God, I was able to talk my mom into giving me a chance at least, like, let me get back on my feet at her house. And she accepted, and they were willing to do that for me. And that's what it took. After that, it was just like I knew I wasn't going back. And ever since then, I never touched drugs again. I still wasn't a Christian, but I was on a good step to becoming one.
Right. Yeah. And once you get to that point too, where you're ready to just give it all up, like, that's where God's like, okay, finally, like, I've been here the whole time just waiting for you. And the thing that I've been thinking the whole time too is like the Lord's sovereignty over your entire life, of working, not orchestrating some of these horrible events, but being sovereign and present over them, waiting for you to choose him, like, is so, it's in every second of your story of him just being there waiting for you to, like, turn a 180 and look behind you, and there he is. And so that's super cool as well. One thing that I was thinking as we kind of get towards the end of our time here is, with your position now, especially as like the Greenville stores gets ready to open up, like crisis intervention and the classes, and like we're starting to have more of what we do as far as our outreach goes in Greenville. So much of your story, when you said couch surfing, you said like halfway houses, all in these like situations that you don't really know where your next meal is going to come from or your next bed. How have you used some of the situations that you've been through in your life to kind of help you stay focused at work, and how do you see that working in your position now as a store?
That's a great question too. Well, I think the biggest difference about where I'm at is just having purpose. Being able to serve God first and foremost. Like, not many people get to do that, especially for their job. Yeah. So, I'm not, I could veer away from God outside of work, but when I'm in work, I'm always, talking about the gospel as much as I can. But, using my past to motivate me, like I said, just having that purpose and knowing that my testimony, no matter who I'm telling it to, it's like it could change someone's life, and someone might need to hear it. And you know, I know that what I'm doing at work, it is making a difference. And I touched on earlier about my mom and how, you know, I think that's why I'm as passionate as I am about what the Dream Center does. But you know, I think that's a big part of it too, just knowing that what I'm doing is making a difference, and it's helping these children, you know, get back with their parents, and you know, it's helping these mothers stay with their kids. And it's like, what's better than that? You know?
Amazing.
So kind of reflecting off of everything that you've said, what is some things of like wisdom and things that you could kind of speak into encourage other people that are hearing your story that may be experiencing some of the things that you've experienced, or kind of walking through similar, whether it's they have that feeling of, I can't forgive myself, even when it's not their fault, or maybe it is their fault, or if they feel like they're going through this grief process and they're kind of feeling the weight of it, or they're in and out of rehab and feel like they can't get over it. Kind of like, how would you speak into that hopeless situation? Like, what would you tell somebody?
Well, first thing that comes to my mind is just, you aren't alone, you know, and not necessarily just like there's another person going through the same thing as you, but, you know, it's more direct. Like, there's Jesus Christ, and he's literally just a conversation away. It's not like you have to do anything special, but I know myself, I can drive down the road and, you know, I can talk to God, and, you know, just have faith that there's something bigger than you out there. And, you know, that this God, he wants to prosper you. He doesn't want you living in despair. He doesn't want you living in anxiety or depression or addiction. You know, he wants what's best for you. If there's any hope, then, you know, then your story is something that could change someone else's life. So just don't give up, really. Your story's not done. Let the miracle happen.
Let the miracle happen.
I love that.
I love that
Beautiful.
so much.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Wow.
Well, Shayne, thank you so much. I mean, I could do a podcast with you every week.
Every single week.
Our conversations with you are just awesome, and there's so much just encouragement, and like I said, there's just so much of how much the Father loves us so much, and so evident in your story. And so I just feel super encouraged and like ready to go, fired up after hearing your story. So just thank you for being here again.
Oh yeah.
I'm excited to for people to get to hear a little bit more about who you are and what you've been through, and to kick off this next season of Stories of Hope is going to be great. And just thank you.
Oh yeah. Thank you. It's been a blessing being here, and I'm glad I'm able to share my story with you guys. Y'all are awesome. So thank you.